Hello, hello, and welcome. Hello, and welcome, Facebook. Welcome, YouTube. Welcome to Love Talk with Keisha. This pre-holiday live. For those of you who do not know me, I am a coach, I am an author, I am a speaker, all of those wonderful things, and just added the title mentor. Welcome to Love Talk with Keisha. Just want to read my little message, my little disclaimer that I do for every live, just to give you a little touch about what you will get through this live session. Um, this show is being presented on behalf of Self Love Ministry, which promotes self love awareness in regards to us being able to love ourselves unconditionally, especially through our challenges of seeking and needing to heal. We render conversation pertaining to discovering our brokenness and seeking new beginnings. We discuss issues surrounding healing in all types of relationships, the lies, which are the people's opinions that are often made against us, the lust, which is the pain, the trauma that we have faced over in our life, and then the lessons, the things that are meant to help us heal, recover, and survive. I render truth, testimony, transparency about my own self journey and my own self discovery for connection. Um, be welcome to comment during this live in the comment section, or after the live, you can also inbox or you can send your questions, your letters, your suggestions, all of those wonderful things to my email, which is loving me first. Loving me first underscore self love at yahoo.com. Loving me, the number one ST underscore self love at yahoo.com. So let's get started. Let's get started with this live today. If you are anyone like me, I'm always looking for things to help me um, gain skills, gain knowledge of certain different things that I am challenging myself in. So I have this wonderful, wonderful podcast that I watch, and it is called Dear Future Wifey Podcast. Dear Future Wifey Podcast. It is an awesome podcast. I have been watching this podcast for, it's been over 6 months, maybe close to a year now. It has really, really helped me in the relationship area. It has really, really helped me to see a lot of things different from the man side. And I just thought that I wanted to share the things in a episode that he did that was titled "What Men Say, What Women Hear." It was some awesome things in this episode when I tell you. So, Dear Future Wifey Podcast, what men say and what women hear, and it was titled off the podcast. And this was done June 9th, last month, June 9th. So, y'all know I always got questions as I start. My questions would be starting off, what image are we portraying while we are on our seeking journey, looking for our mate, looking for our companion, our future husband? Like, what image are we portraying on an everyday life? That just so happen if we're in the store, if we're at the mall or in the beauty shop or whatever, that, is that image that we're portraying may catch that person's eye. um, who are we who are we value of being, or do we even know who we are value excuse me value of being? Believe it or not, some people don't recognize their value. Some people don't know their value. They just haven't got there yet, which is not a bad thing. We're in different phases and we're on different levels. But some people, believe it or not, don't recognize their value. Are we capable of loving beyond our brokenness, which is very, very important? Are we capable of loving beyond our brokenness? So, are you capable of loving beyond your past relationship, beyond your past trauma, beyond your past generational curses, whether it was childhood, um, toddler, um, teenage, teen? Are you capable of loving beyond your brokenness? And do we understand who we are and what we need? Do we understand who we are and what we need? And my last question would be, do we know what we need and are we willing to wait for it? Do we actually know what we're looking for? Are we willing to wait for whatever husband that we have in mind, whatever wife that we have in mind? Or you're not ready to get married. Are you willing to wait for um, that that companion or that mate, um, and not settle? So those are some of the questions I think that were some of them I think I came up with. Some of them came from the video as well. But this was an awesome, awesome podcast. So first, I want to start with some words to stand out for self-reflection. If we just think about self-reflection for a minute, some of the words that are listed, that are named in this video, is actually towards the end of this video. Some of the words that they talk about are purpose. It's very, very important that we, um, and I think I said this today in my video, just for my journey, when I was going through so much unhealthy, so much toxic, so much dysfunctional stuff, for the first time in my life, I began to say, you know what, I'm going to just use this as my aim. And I began to use my purpose as my aim. My purpose became my ministry and all of the things that I wanted to do, in my ministry. Um, that became my purpose. And I did that whenever I got upset, whenever I got mad, because it was so much stuff that I had in my mind that I could do. I used that. I began to focus on my purpose to take away all of the other things as being a distraction to me. And it really helps because as women, speaking from the woman aspect, a lot of times, one thing that I'm learning, and I learned from this video as well, but I've heard other people that have said it. You know, when you can find your purpose and let everything else add, it's an awesome thing. When you can just focus on my purpose is this, and I'm running after my purpose to be in the place that I am today, that's a true statement. I didn't understand it when I used to hear it. But when you run after your purpose and you run after your talent, you run after your gift, you run after your whatever you're passionate about, whatever you enjoy to do, and you make that your number one aim, everything else will come. Because here's the thing, why is it so important to run after our purpose? Because you want to run after your purpose, you want to enjoy your purpose, you want to develop your person. So when that mate comes along, they can now, what's the word I'm looking for? They can now contribute to your purpose. You don't want to get a, well, we don't. And I had to really think about this. I don't want get to get a mate or to have a mate, to have a husband and all of these other things. And now my mate, my husband, my spouse or whatever, he doesn't support what I do. So I want to be able to run after my purpose, enjoy my purpose, seek my purpose. So therefore, when I meet that person, when I meet that husband, that companion, that dating partner, whoever it is, that I'm ready. Well, I'm speaking in for those who have not found their mate, for those who have not found their husband. I'm speaking to you, but I'm grateful that in my relationship, I get support through my through my through my purpose, and that's the most important thing. So seeking your purpose, and whoever comes along, whoever you choose to date, whoever you choose to be involved with, whoever you choose to gain a relationship with or marry, they should pour into your purpose. So that's why it's important for you to run after your purpose and then allow that person to just add, because the more that they add, it'll just expand. Self-love, as we know, is very, very important. They speak about perspective, knowing what you're looking for, to know what you're looking for and not just accepting anything. You want to go into it knowing what you're looking for. Solitude, I learned this through this actual live. They talked a lot in this live about just being able to sit alone. I asked the question, basically, are you able to just wait? Are you comfortable with just waiting? Are you comfortable with just waiting until that person comes along, because you know what you want, you know what you will and you won't accept? So that's very, very important. And then the process. Are you willing to go through the process that's needed for you, the process that's developed for you. Are you willing to go through that process? Which for me, my slogan, are you willing to do the work, put in the work? So that was just a little bit of self-reflection, some words that I wanted to put out there. It's a lot of things that I wanted to mention from this video, and I hope that I can get through it in this one live, but it was awesome. So let's start first with, if you watch the video, anybody that's watching, if you watch the video, one of the things they talked about in this video was the dating perspective. The dating perspective. Pursuing with intentionality. Pursuing with intentionality. Building a relationship first. This is something that I have really never done until now. And I say now because even though I've been in my current relationship for over almost 5 years, it's not until this last year that after getting things back on track and rebuilding and recommunicating and getting through the bad things and the tough things and trying to make things work and trying to develop and all of those wonderful things, that I am learning, still learning how to be a friend first. I'm learning how to be a friend first. I'm learning the importance of being a friend first. And we'll put it in that work and we'll put in that effort. When I tell you, it's so beneficial. So beneficial. And I'll tell you why when we get to another section. Actually gonna be the next section. So building relationships first. They talked about that and the importance of building relationships first. Getting to know one's desires, goals, and backgrounds. They talked about in this episode how a lot of times we get with people and we settle. They don't have the same desires. They don't have the same goals. We don't know their background. And things begin to go on and to go on. And those things become a problem. So now we've spent, let's just say, a year, 5, 10 years with somebody who never had the same desires as us, we never knew what their goals were. And we didn't even know their background. We didn't know their past trauma. We didn't know their past difficulties. We didn't know their past challenges, none of that. We don't even understand their brokenness. So the dating perspective, basically being friends and building relationships and getting to know our partners, getting to know our partners better. So that was very, very important. One of my questions that I had is there a time limit? Is there a time limit? Sometimes we see people that meet and things progress 3 to 6 months and they work out fine. And then you have some people that take their time in relationships and it may not work out for them. So I wouldn't say that there's a time limit. I think it's really based on the amount of effort that you put into your relationship, into your marriage, into your friendship. I think it's based on the effort that you put in. Because here's the thing, the effort has to come. I hope my lights don't go out. My light just blinked. The effort has to come from both sides. And this is speaking on experience. The effort has to come from both sides in order to make it work. And that's the number one key. Pursuing a connection and not chemistry. They talked about that, and that stood out to me. A lot of times, I'm connected to him, I'm connected to her. No, we got chemistry. That's what people will say. Oh, the chemistry is good, girl. The chemistry is good. But do you really have a connection? Chemistry is good, but your connection is what really, draws things together, and what really begins to build that foundation. Can you build a connection with this person? Compatibility is very important. When you're talking about wanting to be with somebody long term, it is very, very important. And like I said, I'll be 45 this year, and a lot of things that were in this video really stood out to me. And I was like, okay, so I'm on the right track because I mentally can adjust to this mindset. Before, if you would have caught me years ago, I wouldn't have been able to adjust to a lot of these different things. And as I said in the beginning, some of these things I am practicing currently in my relationship. I am practicing these things. These are tools for me. This is a challenge for me, to help me better myself, to be a better me. Love languages. They spoke about the importance of love languages. And this is what they said. Sometimes what we are giving is not what our partner is in need of. Sometimes what we are giving is not what our partner is in need of. So when I was talking about the dating perspective, I told you I was going to share the one of the key factors to rebuilding and reestablishing my current relationship. One of those key factors was learning DeAndre's dad love language. I hope these lights don't go out. It blinked again. But one of the key factors, believe it or not, was understanding DeAndre's dad love language. What was his love language? He did the test. I did the test. We began to practice and still do practice those love languages. So do you even know your partner's love language? Do you know, how they like to receive love? One of the things they also said was that a lot of times we are loving people in the manner in which we want to be loved, but that's not in the manner in which they want to receive love. So receiving and giving love are two different things. And that was very, very important. That stood out to me as well. Um, are our love languages helpful? Yes, as I just said. Um, with rebuilding and reestablishing a relationship with DeAndre's dad, I'm gonna tell you that's how we started. I had learned about love languages. I researched it for a little bit, and love languages really helped. We took the test together. I shared mine. He shared his. He asked me questions. I told him, and it was a breaker. It was actually a breaker. So love languages do work. Can we give what we expect? Can we give what we expect? Whatever we are expecting of our partner, can we give that? Um, I really had to ask myself. I had to really had ask myself that question. If I'm looking for this and that, am I willing to give this or that? We can't ask for something that we're not giving. And if you're interested in trying to find out your love languages, and have your mate do it or your husband do it, you can go to 5lovelanguages.com. The number 5lovelanguages.com. You can take the quiz. They'll email you everything, the breakdown, the percentage, and everything. It's an exciting thing to do with your mate and to practice those things, because I didn't know what my love language was, and I didn't know what his was. Okay. They talked about social media image, which is very, very important. I think that this stands out a lot to our young generation. We see the what am I looking for? We see the the artists, we see the hip hop culture, you know, um, you have to have a snatch waist. They make you feel as though if you don't have a snatch waist, if you don't have a big butt, if you're not looking a certain way, then you're not accepted or you're not valuable, which is not true at all. That's just the image that they give you. So they talked about actually the hip hop culture and the image that it is giving off. Also, we see in the hip hop culture, we see how the men, they flash their money, they use their money. So you have these women, they run after this money, they run after the money, they run after the material things and what they buy. But then when they feel that the woman is becoming a gold digger, now you know, when they feel the woman is becoming a gold digger, now she's put in this certain type of category. No, that's what you use. You use your money as your way of defining who you are and the importance of you. And then he also talked about how the women that flaunt their body. You're a woman that you flaunt your body, but then you turn around and you say that this man was a dog or he was this or he used you or he that. No, you used your body as that image, you know, to um to base your value. And I think that that was very important because you don't normally hear that, you know. So that was very, very important. Basically, they said that it was no reputation of your self value. Your money does not value you. Your body does not value you. So that was very, very important. And I thought that that was something that was basically could be guided towards, the younger generation. Because like I said, when they see the artists and these famous people, um, sometimes that's what they think, that you're not beautiful or you're not valuable, you're not worthy if you don't have, like I said, the snatch weights, if you don't have the big butt, if you don't have the big breasts, if you don't look like a certain way. But that does not define your value or our value. Value is not, they said, value is not in our external or our outer appearance. It has all to do with the inside and how we get to connect with ourselves. They also talked about, y'all, the reasons that some marriages are falling apart. And I took this in because I desire to be married one day. So it really, really helped me. As I said, if you're a person like me, I look at stuff like this so that it can help me in the future. I like to look, I like to research, I like to gain knowledge, I like to gain skills that will help me in my future life. So I started listening to this when they talked about things that, reasons why marriages are falling apart. And some of the things that they said, people go into relationships with unrealistic expectations. Unrealistic expectations was one. Two was they don't want to do the work. They don't want to do the work. And then they said people are trying to live a single life. This what got me. People are trying to live a single life in a marriage state. You're married, but you're still trying to function as though you're single. So the unrealistic expectations, not willing to do the work, and also, being married but trying to live that single life. This came from the video. Marriage is the outcome of doing the work. Marriage is the outcome of us putting in the work. Marriage is the outcome of, and this is from what I gained from the video, marriage is the outcome of how effective I am in my friendships of getting to know who I'm involved with. Marriage is the outcome of how successful I can be and stay and grow, and the effort I can put in my relationship that will make my marriage, basically become a success. So I thought that was good, and it opened my eyes about marriage in the future. Your relationship is going to determine the experience in your marriage. So if you couldn't be friends, if you couldn't work through being friends, if you couldn't work through, you know, surviving in a relationship, how you going to survive in a marriage? So I thought that that was very, very important, and very, very helpful for me. Traditional roles. This was something that you don't hear a lot either. They talked about traditional roles, how women, as the women are normally the ones that stay home and take care of the kids, and the men are the ones that go out and make the money. But they talked about working through your strengths and working through your weaknesses. One of the questions they asked is, what if the man is actually good with staying home with the kids? He's better with dealing with the kids, and the woman's not. And she goes out and make the money. You know, they stated, um, why do we judge? If that relationship is working for the man staying home with the kids and the woman going to work, you know, why do we judge? Now, they did reflect on the Bible aspect, because we know the man is supposed to lead and he's supposed to provide and all of these wonderful things. But what if that doesn't work for that relationship? What if the woman just isn't, she's just not there yet? And their relationship works the opposite. Is that wrong or is that right? I thought that that was very, very important. Um, are we prepared to ask the tough questions? Are we prepared to ask the tough questions? This stood out to me because over this last year or so, there are some questions that both me and DeAndre's dad has had to ask each other. We're trying to rebuild. We're trying to reconnect. We're trying to build better communication. Can you ask those tough questions in your friendship, getting to know somebody? Can you ask those tough questions in your relationship? Are you able to ask those tough questions in your marriage? When I tell y'all this episode, like if you really trying to succeed in dating, relationship, or marriage, like mentally, it challenged you. Can we ask our partners those tough questions? The next area was how a man chooses. This is the part that got me, y'all. How a man chooses and how a man marries is a different approach. And this is something I never heard this. I never even thought about this, but how a man chooses a woman and how a man chooses, yes, how a man chooses versus how a man marries is from a different aspect. I was like, wow. But here's what they said about that. A man will choose based on attention wise. And then a man will marry. Well, no, let me step back. A man, trying to go off a thought, a man choosing versus a man marrying. So just because a man may choose us doesn't necessarily mean that we may become his wife, basically. I never really thought about that. But because they were saying that when a man thinks about a wife, he thinks about peace. He thinks about, does he have a connection with her? And he also thinks about the things that are valuable to him. So just because, a man chooses us doesn't mean he will make us his wife. If we have all of these other things going on that may not present the wife aspect. So I thought that that was very important. They talked about how you can gain the attention of the person that he chooses, but how you can gain the proposal by the person that he may marry. And I thought that that was very important because I never really thought about that. I never really heard that before. So it really challenged me to really think about that. We make we make marriage an idol, failing to properly prepare for it, which is true. Even myself, I've done that. I've made marriage an idol. Oh, gotten with men, and the first thing I could think about was marriage because that was in the back of my head. But I had to really be true with myself. Was I even marriage material? No, because I didn't really understand what marriage was about. I didn't really understand the aspects of gaining or keeping a healthy marriage. So I thought that that was very important. So keep that in mind, ladies. How a man chooses versus how a man marries comes from a different aspect. Just because he chose you doesn't mean that you will necessarily become um, his wife. And they talked about why. They talked about some of the reasons why. Because if you have all of these things going on, if you have drama going on, you have chaos going on, you have all these things going on, and that man is looking for peace, is he going to take you to a family reunion? Do some of the things they mentioned in the video. Is he going to take you around his family? Is he going to do all of these different things, feel comfortable doing this and doing that? Because the man is looking for peace. He's looking for a connection, and he's looking for the things that is of value to him. So I thought that that was very important as well. Um, Doing good. They also talked about preparing to heal before wanting to be a wife. This was very important. Preparing to heal before wanting to be a wife. This also stood out, especially because I am in my healing journey. I really had to actually say to myself, okay, Keisha, like you really on the right track now. Because as I said previously, I will put that title on men, or I want to be I want to get married. But when I look back, I was in a broken state. I had not healed yet. I had not worked through my difficulties. I had not worked through my pain. I had not worked through my past situations. So even if I did um, attempt to get married at that time, one of the questions I had to ask myself is, would that marriage have worked? Because I had not healed. I had not taken time to work through my issues. So we should prepare to heal before we look, actually, not just for marriage, before we even get into a relationship. We should look to just try to gain the healing that we need first. It's very different. As I said, in my current relationship, mm, excuse me, I can reflect on the first 3 years of not, first 3.5 years of not being healed, and the toxic and the dysfunction and the negative things that were happening versus the last year and some change of Keisha being willing to heal, Keisha being willing to look at herself and what she needs to do to grow. Um, Also being with someone who is also doing the same thing. Um, it's different. There's a big difference. So our relationships or friendships may not be working because we have not healed. Mentally, we have not challenged ourselves. Mentally, we're not in that spot to open up the door and open up the um, the necessary thinking to apply the tools and the resources that we need to make that relationship successful, to make that relationship, healthy. So that was something that really stood out to me. They talked about when you don't heal, you have no self security obtained. You have no self security obtained. You have no self development growth, and you have no discipline of how to change. And I thought that that was very, very important. Those things was very, very important. Everybody that know me, everybody that follow me, know, excuse me, that this last year has been a healing journey for me. Working past relationships, working, through past pain, disappointments, all of those wonderful things. And that's why I currently speak out about healing, because let's just say you can be with a person, as I said, you can be with somebody for 5 years, 10 years, and never heal and feel like life is just falling apart. But then you decide to transition into a spot where you begin to heal. And now things may be like, oh, okay, it's working out for me. It's because you've taken the time to heal, you've taken the time to examine yourself, you've taken the time to reflect on your needs. And here's the also thing that I've learned too, that it's very important to heal, and it's very important to express those things to your mate so that your mate can know the areas in which you struggle, the areas in which you are challenged, because our mates and our companions need to understand our triggers. They need to understand the things that we are dealing with. Healing is a continuous thing. So just because we start healing doesn't mean we'll be healed by the time we get in that relationship. Doesn't mean we'll be healed by the time we get in that marriage. We will still be healing because it's continuously, but our spouse and our mate will have an understanding, okay, this may be a soft area for her, this may be a soft area for him. So I'm not going to get upset, I'm not going to get frustrated. They just need a moment. It builds that communication when you express and you talk about, even when you begin to meet people, after time, you talk about the trauma, you talk about the the things that you've been through and how they affect you, so that the person that you are gaining a relationship with understand that this is me as a whole, this is what I'm dealing with. And if you're not able to accept, or you're not able to deal with the person that has the issues going on, then maybe, I'm not the person for you, because I just need to work on me and my healing factor, and you know, doing all of those wonderful things to get me right. So I thought that that was important from the video. Also speaking on healing, they talked about um, if you don't heal, how your relationships will become a repeated cycle. Again, self-reflection. I think back, well, damn, I didn't heal in none of my past. This is the first relationship that I've challenged myself to heal. So I look back like, man, I've tried to gain self-love and got myself on that path journey, but I never worked on the healing. I never worked on the areas in which I needed to forgive people. I never worked on the area of the pain and disappointment that I was actually dealing with from past relationships and things like that. So if you don't work on your issues in this relationship, it will trigger over to the next relationship. And I think I said this before. A lot of times we'll go through two, three, four relationships and be like, well, it was them, it was them, it was them. But a lot of times it may not be them. It may be you not realizing that you did not recognize your issues that you brought to the table. And I've been guilty of that. I blame other people for relationships not working out. And some of the fault might have been them, but some of the fault might have been me too. But I didn't want to admit to it. And one of the reasons why we don't admit is because we just have that mindset that nothing is wrong with me. It's them. But when you begin to really want to tap into your healing process, when you begin to really want to like just grow and create change, one of the first things that you do when you want to heal is you admit. Admitting is the first stage of healing. Like, this is what I'm going through. This is what my issue is. You might not have the answer. You might not have the understanding or the knowledge of how you're going to recover, how you're going to build, how you're going to move forward. But when you can admit this is what I'm dealing with, then you're ready to move on to the next step of healing. So that was very, very important. So um, our our toxic and our dysfunction can carry over from relationship to relationship, and we may never find that peace, that happiness, whatever we're seeking. We may never find that because we're not willing to do the work. After taking time to heal, what can we effectively bring to a relationship? So after we're in that now that we're in that healing stage, and now that we see things from a different aspect, we have mentally challenged ourselves. We have put in the work. We dedicated the effort. We've done all of those wonderful things. Now you can actually see, okay, now I can bring this to a relationship. I could be successful in this area in a relationship, but you might not have been able to do that before you heal, before you committed to healing, because your mind had so much stuff going on, because mentally you was in a whole nother area. You just couldn't see those things. Even me today, I surprise myself sometimes with me being the current me, because I never challenged myself in a relationship the way that I do. I never challenged myself mentally the way that I do. Spiritually, I definitely never challenged myself in the way that I am currently doing. So, to someone that may know that they need to heal, but you're not there yet to actually take it in and heal, when you actually heal and you actually put all of those things together, you actually begin to see things from a different outlook. Your your mental thinking will it will change. Your mental thinking will change, and you will also begin to see some wonderful things about yourself that you probably never saw before. Um, that's what healing does. And then they talked about letting go. They talked about how sometimes we consider letting go of people. We consider those things as a loss, but then it's not really a loss. It's just a healthy choice that you have decided to make for yourself. This doesn't work for me. I'm not going to tolerate this. I don't want to go through this. I'm working past this. I have built my standards. I have my boundaries. I know what I'm looking for. Um, I'm just not willing to deal with it. Um, so they talked about not how not thinking that letting go is always a bad thing. It can be a healthy thing. You know, It can be your place of security to find your peace, your place of security to stay mentally balanced, and all of those wonderful things, to deter the distractions and to continue working on you and being the best person. So I thought that that was important. And then they talked about seeking purpose in your singleness. And I spoke on this, and this is almost the last time, and I did great timing. Um, Seeking purpose in your singleness. I spoke on this in the beginning of this live, and I spoke about how important it is. Again, this has become another lesson for me. How important it is to run after your purpose before you even. A lot of us sometimes we will think about the relationship. Our aim may be the relationship. Our aim may be a dating partner. Our aim may be a marriage. All of those wonderful things that we want. But when we seek our purpose first in our singleness, everything else will come. And as I said earlier in the video, I didn't understand that until I actually started, practicing it in my own life. Once I got to a place where I felt that I had so much toxic or dysfunction, peace broken, so many different things going on. I hadn't worked on my healing stage. I hadn't just did all of those things to keep me balanced. I used my ministry as my focus. I used my ministry as my aim. I used my ministry as my goal. And I just went from there. Whenever I would get upset, whenever I would, you know, um, sometimes wasn't feeling well, I needed something to do to just keep me mentally stable. I would write something, I would plan something, I would do something that was pertaining to my ministry because my ministry became my focus. Um, so being able to basically be by yourself, focus on your purpose, and let everything else, excuse me, everything else form together is a wonderful thing. As I said, I didn't understand that until I actually, started practicing it in my own life. When you walk in your purpose, when you're dedicated to your purpose, and you use that as your aim and your goal, and you just run with that, everything else will add. Everything else will add. Because one of the things that I said earlier, you don't want to, be with somebody and that person doesn't support what you do. That person, never encourage you, never, never supports you. So, you want to run after your purpose and find your place and enjoy that and allow the right person to add to that purpose, to gain that encouragement, and to gain those all of the things that come with it. So that podcast was very, very enlightening to me. It's basically I learned from it. Like I said, because I do desire to be married, but the episode basically challenged me um, to let me know, wow, the Keisha before wasn't ready for this. Even if she probably tried to get married, it wouldn't have been successful. But listening to this podcast and some of the things that they said, especially going back to how a man chooses and how a man marries, and some of the things that we normally don't hear. Um, if you really desire, change, whether it be in dating, in relationship, or in marriage, like this podcast was awesome. These are notes, 4 pages of notes that I actually took, on this video and on my Love Talk with Keisha. I like to bring knowledge. I like to bring what do you call it? I like to for people that are in the same mindset as me, that are in the same area as me, that are trying to grow, that are challenging themselves, that are trying to expand, that have their goals, and you're trying to position yourself for that. I like to talk about those things as well, because sometimes we feel as though I'm the only one struggling with this particular area, with this particular problem. And sometimes, it's not until somebody else speak out about it that you realize that like other people or somebody else is actually facing the same thing too. So I thought that this episode was very, very important for people that do have relationship goals, for people that do have marriage goals, for people that are trying to, move from one stage to another. So I know um, one of the things, like I said, now that can be very helpful for somebody, you know, um, overall in this relationship is just to this episode, this live is just to reflect, just to reflect where we are, reflect, what we want, and reflect what is needed to get there. Again, this podcast, I watch it very often. Um, and it's really, really helped me in the relationship area. It's helped me in the singleness stage. It's helped me with healing. Um, and these are the things that I look for. And I like to share with people that have that same aim as me. So if you haven't watched the podcast, I would encourage you to go back again. It's the Dear Future Wifey Podcast, What Men Say and What Women Hear off the podcast. And it was aired on June 9th. It was very, very, a lot of knowledge and a lot of stuff that you really don't hear. And it had some familiar faces that I've been following on Instagram and Facebook. Some familiar faces that do a lot of things. Um, Kevin Barnett was one. Latarius from the podcast was two, and there was two other women that I also follow. So it was a great conversation from therapist aspect, from people that are researching relationships and all of those wonderful things. So um, I hope that this live again has helped somebody, inspired somebody, motivated somebody, and encouraged somebody in some way or some form. Um, and I think I am right on time. As I always do, I have 9 minutes left. I'm going to pray, as I always do, before I leave this, before I end this live. Just want to say that I thank you for joining me on this live. Share this live with somebody that you may think needed. Um, and in 2 weeks, I'll see you again for another live. I'm going to pray us out of this live, and I will see you next time. Dear God, I come to you on tonight just to say thank you. Thank you for continuing to allow me to just be the person that I am today, to encourage, inspire, uplift people in any way or any form that I can. I thank you for continuing to download in me and the things that I can do to challenge myself to help other people. I thank you for the circle, the connections, the guidance that you have rendered in my everyday circle. I pray that something in this episode will help somebody that may be challenged in some area of their life. I pray that they will challenge themselves, that they will um, step beyond the fear, move beyond doubt, realize their worth, realize their value, step out of that uncomfortable spot and just step into that area of trusting you and having faith, knowing that with you all things will work and all things can happen. Adhere to the process and move forward, seek self-happiness and begin to love thyself more. I continue to ask that you watch over our houses, our household, you watch over our kids, you watch over us from destination A to destination B, that you continue to supply our every need, you continue to just render everything that we need, continue to protect us, guide us, lead us, and allow us to continue to challenge ourselves to become better people, to position ourselves and just do better, work for better, and most importantly, do the work that is needed for us to become a better person. I thank you for just allowing me to see this podcast and talk about the things that are not often said, that people don't often want to talk about, to be a bold person, just to share my life experiences, to, mm, excuse me, help other people, to be a model for someone who may just need to see that it works. I thank you for allowing me to find that comfort in my spiritual walk. These and all other blessings I ask in your name. Amen. So, those of you that are watching, I thank you, and I will see you next time in 2 weeks for another Friday Night Live. Love you and goodbye.